I was born ready.
And we are live with the great and powerful Nick Harmon. How you doing, man?
Hello. Good.
Very good.
Good.
Yes.
How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. This is your first podcast. Your first
Yeah,
guested podcast.
ever, dude.
I know.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares about me.
Yeah, wow. Well, that's pretty exciting stuff. Okay, so we were just talking about May. So are you doing anything special in May with the podcast, or is it just that's just your the first year?
So, what I'm doing with the Drywall podcast right now is I am offering monthly sponsorships to companies. So, we have it's the platformer is going to be February. So, I will do an ad for the platformer and
Nice.
kind of like that'll be their month. And I'm still going to promote Fresco Harmony and CSR, but on top of that, the month will be I'll have one sponsor per month. We've got the platformers in February. Canam is March and April,
Nice.
and then we've got Techdry in May, and then Columbia in June. And
Nice.
I'm actually going up to going to meet Aaron and Elliot in June up in Vancouver, BC. We're going to do some work with Cam,
Perfect.
Fresco Harmony, and I'm going to interview Bernie live. So that'll be cool.
That's
They're
wicked.
yeah.
Like at head office, like you guys were talking about. Like you're gonna do some Presto work.
Yeah, but I think we're going to do it in a home that they have on an island or something.
Okay.
So yeah, it'll be kind of a family deal where I take my kid and my wife up there and we hang out and enjoy Canada. Not so
Yeah.
much of a working trip like Cam, where where I was busting his ass the whole time he was here.
Yeah.
Not like that.
That if you're
Yeah.
gonna come experience Canada, that really is where I'd be sending you. Somewhere nice out west. Alberta's real nice too. When you get into like northern Alberta, like Grand Prairie, it's real
Mhm.
nice. But yeah, BC's it's gorgeous, man. That really is kind of the
Yeah, I've been to British Columbia. I'm from Washington State originally, so I've played a little soccer up in Vancouver, BC in my youth. It's been 30 years since I've been there.
Mhm. So let's talk about the 24th. You're going to come in on the 23rd,
Oh
I
yeah.
think, and then
Yeah, I've been in communication with CSR. So Fresco Harmony is going to do a training at CSR Friday the 24th of February. We are going to do it's going to be 11 to 4, and we're going to give out a Techdry tool every hour of the training.
nice.
Five Techdry tools we're going to give out at the training, and I'm going to do a live podcast with Brad Hanna on Thursday before from C
Nice.
from CSR. So yeah, I'm like just gearing up to do a lot of really fun, cool stuff. I mean, the podcast has enabled me to connect with people, not only connect with people, but sell Fresco Harmony. Get and hang out with the Canadians, man.
Yeah, we're pretty cool.
You are. I like Canada.
Yeah, that's wicked. So is that going to be open to everybody on the 24th, or is there kind of a guest list going on with that? Or
Yes, they are going to have a sign up. My druthers would be to whoever wants to. I
yeah,
think there might be a cap, but I think they're going to we're going to start launching a promo that has an actual sign up. I'll be
perfect.
promoting it on the Fresco Harmony and the Drywall podcast page, and then CSR will be promoting this event. This like I don't even know what to call it yet. I don't want to call it like a training. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't want to call
Mhm.
it a class. A bunch of people are going to get together at CSR. You can pick a color, mix up a batch, make a sample. Now you have something to show your clients, and you can take a bucket of colored mud with you when you go.
That's
We're
wicked.
going to talk about marketing, Fresco Harmony, business aspects, but and then we're going to talk about some different application techniques, and then give away a couple Techdry tools. And I think there might be something about lunch, but the details aren't sorted out yet. But
Oh, it's in a month from now. Yeah. Yeah.
I just want it to be fun. Like everybody shows up, we have fun, we play in the mud, and you get to take like a color with you. And hopefully the goal would be that Sean would be comfortable selling a wall to a client or something. By the time you leave, you'd be 100% comfortable selling a job.
Yeah, we've got a guy I'm going to bring with me that's runs a painting division, and
Okay.
when he's talking to the designers, that's going to be one of the big pitches. So that's nice that we'll all have like a sample board to take home.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I
So
think
CSR is going to cut up a bunch of 2x2s. I like using masonite. Ultimately, when I'm making samples personally, it's cleaner, it's nicer. But for these purposes, we're going to cut a nice big batch of 2x2 samples out of sheetrock. You have a nice big sample to take with you.
perfect.
Whatever.
That's perfect. Good, man. I'm excited to have you back. It's hang out for the day a little bit.
Yeah.
It's I'm really excited to see kind of firsthand how it's all done. Like I kind of saw the tail end of it at the CSR Black Friday event, but I got there at like 3 or 3:30, whatever it was. So I've taken the day off on the 24th, so I'll be there the whole day.
Beautiful.
So
And yeah, I was just doing like testers at the CSR Black Friday event. I was just kind of like messing around, showing Royce and just doing some quick testers so people could like play around and get a feel. But this will be an actual, each coat, here's this method, here's this method. We'll probably do 2 different methods, and you could do whatever color you feel like playing with, and it'll just be a bunch of fun.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's really cool, man. Yeah, good. And then I can buy what I need for behind me. That's I wanted to dive into it, and then I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
If he's coming, I should probably watch how he does it first.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
So I don't have a wall this thick behind me for me redoing it and redoing it.
It's pretty easy. And also there's like, videos on YouTube. A lot of people don't know. They'll go to the website. There's videos on the website, but YouTube, there's a ton of videos. You can go there and just watch videos for a long time and check out a lot of different application techniques.
Yeah, there's no lack of content. Content, I should say. That's absolutely true.
And with the podcast, it just seems like it's getting more and more now.
Well, there's a certain reach that comes with that podcast, right? It's almost like you don't recognize it at first, and then you're like, holy shit. Yeah, I see it everywhere now. It's and when I'm asking people about it, everybody knows what it is now, which is great.
Crazy.
Yeah, well, it's I think it's going to be really neat. I'm excited to see more of it going in, and I think I'm probably going to see it in the feature wall aspect, just because of the kind of sites that we do. But
that's how it starts. It starts with bathrooms and feature walls, or you give away a feature wall, you get it out there. And when I first started, it was like I felt like I needed to develop a portfolio.
Yeah.
So I was in a hurry to do lots of jobs. This is like the attitude that you should have. Like get it on the wall, get it into people's homes, whatever that looks like, whether you got to give it away, family, your own home, your own office, whatever. Start working with it, get familiar, get comfortable. And then, not only can you have your own, like portfolio of work that you can show, you can always use the resources on the web or ask me, hey, do you have any colors of Marianne Mocha? The client wants to see Marianne Mocha, because there's a lot of that education and also talking about the color chart and color that, that's the big deal. We have you take that color chart and you have a sample, and now you can be like, here's all the colors. This is what this color looks like in a sample.
Right.
We can do any of these colors, and that's kind of how you start selling it. I didn't have that resource when I started. Somebody would come to me and be like, can you do this Sherwin-Williams color? And I'd be like, sure. And this is an interesting aspect is I was dating a hairstylist at the time who did colored hair.
All right.
And I didn't know how to color, I didn't know that, this much yellow and this much blue make a certain color. You get these
Right.
weird beiges, whites, and different colors. And so I had to start playing with the color. Well, so somebody would bring me a swatch. As I would mix color in a batch of mud, I would keep a record of all of those colors.
Brilliant.
So over time, and I had all of the formulas, but now I have over 400 formulas based on a box of mud.
Jesus Christ.
Like I have a catalog. I have a catalog of color. So now when somebody orders a custom color, like I flip to my white section and I like go till I'm close, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just add a little bit of this or a little bit of that, and I can make that color like really, really quickly. But yeah, a lot of people don't know that. And then when I would come up with a color, so okay, so this client, here's a sample. I would show them a sample. Here, I matched your Sherwin-Williams color, whatever. Here's your sample. They would be like, oh, I love it. That's what I want to use. Well, the client would be Nadine Miner. And so I would name that color Miner Sand. And I mean, the origin of Miner Sand was she wanted sand dunes on her ceiling. So I took an 8-inch knife and I did purposeful humps.
Yeah.
And I did them like sand dunes. And it was like, it was like just a slight hump.
Yeah.
But like I would do 8-inch ridges, and I did a bunch of them along the ceiling.
Yeah.
And that was the color called Miner Sand. That's one of our 40 signature color series now is Miner Sand. That color's named after that client. And then that would give me a reference for that color. Oh, Miner Sand. I use that on Nadine's house. And then Chris Spellman, I think I ended up calling that Spalding Espresso, but Chris Spellman, I used the color for there. And then Dominic Serna was a designer that I worked for. So we have Dijon Dom, which is it's like a nice, Tuscany type yellow.
Yep.
And then we have Serna Vanilla, which is like a tan, like a light brown that we used in his living room. So that's how the names, that's how I came up with all the names.
Well, I did. Cam's got his own too, doesn't he? His ice or something.
And so fun fact is when you order a custom color, then I have a reference for Cam's Ice Cold Ice.
Yeah.
Because I know Cam ordered that color. Now it lives on the website.
I love it.
And so the custom color section of the website grows, as I get new colors or people, it's $75. I think it's $100 at CSR. If you want a custom color, maybe 150. We can make any custom color. And once you order that color, then you pay a premium for that custom color after that. But I mean, custom colors right now are $22 on the website. Yeah. So once you order the custom color, you pay to have that color made. That color lives on the website. And the reason for that is if you have to do patches down the road, or you show that sample to a client and they want that color, well, you have to be able to get that color somewhere. So colors, it's much more complicated than people think. I
see that. Yeah. Yeah. Cause if you want to duplicate or you want to add or somebody sees it and likes it, you can't do the whole process again. That catalog was a hell of an idea.
The starting point is color consistency. So the starting point is being able to achieve that color over and over. Right. That's just the start. After that, it's like, keeping track of the colors. And, now you guys everybody has a color chart that they can show their clients and be like, I can just get that color. I can go down and buy that color. So I get the question a lot, well, can I just color my own? Sure.
Not gonna be very good at it, but
well, there's a lot to know about it. You would kind of have to invent the wheel. Aside from just paying a small amount. I think we're around 25 cents a square foot, 30 cents a square foot, material cost all in. Just buy the damn color pack and dump it in the mud and go make money.
Yeah, this doesn't have to be a difficult thing. It's just like,
Right.
just yeah, figure out what you want, go purchase it from the professionals,
Yeah.
and go
Are
do
you
your
drinking
job.
coffee over there? Are you
And
drinking coffee or are you drinking
this
whiskey?
this is beer. This is beer.
It's
It's
beer.
it says I
What kind
love
of
it.
beer are you drinking?
It's mostly Canadian, always. Yeah.
Yeah, Biggie Small.
This
It's a
is a
nod to
yeah.
Biggie Smalls, right?
I love it when you call me Big Papa.
Yeah.
That's my big coffee cup. So every
I've
once in
got
a
my luck. Look. So
oh, I love that.
yeah, you get the mug.
Oh, I didn't see the knife on the back of it. That's
Yeah, I
perfect.
got the knife. You've started going on the Facebook groups a little bit,
Yeah.
I've noticed.
Yeah, it's I think to be part of the community, you got to be part of the community, right? You can't just pick one or the other. I've kind of planted myself into that mentors group. It's a little bit more my speed, you know. And
Yeah.
when somebody's talking, I don't want to like have to skim through 40 comments of, you know, my mom does a better job than that, or you know, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
mentors group, they're all over it. It's all super positive.
Yeah.
I think I was on
Yeah.
it for a half a day before I was asked to be one of the experts, which you know, I don't think that's an
Yep.
overly taxing thing to ask. So I was like, no problem.
No.
And there's been some pretty
Yeah.
good questions, and there's been pretty good content coming through. I think it's a bunch of the old
Yeah.
fellas, you know what I mean? Like it's the guys that are a little bit more professional, like where they just want to come on, they want a clear answer, or you know, they'll talk about a
Hmm.
specific subject and then it is just to the point, and then you're on to the next one. They've kind of asked,
Yep.
let's do a little bit more content too, which is fine. There's no shortage of that from me, right? So it's just trying to figure out how much and how many times a week I'll post on there,
Yeah.
and it's been pretty good. You know, the funny thing, um, oh, I'm trying to remember what his name is. You did a podcast with him, anyways. I think his name's Rob. He's got a big beard.
Yeah.
Um,
McLaughlin.
that's exactly who it is. So he messages me and he goes, "Hey, you're getting a little bit of heat on the hand finishers group here." And I was like, "Oh, that's weird. I'm not part of that group." And I said, "You know, would you mind showing me what it is?" And somebody else has done all their corners in blue like I do. And
Hey, say that again, Sean. That I got a phone call and for some reason my audio shuts
oh, that's
down when I get I
yeah,
don't know why.
no problem. So he reached out and he told me that I was getting a bunch of heat from somebody on one of the groups, and it was a group that I wasn't a part of, and so I've obviously not posted anything on it. And he sends me the picture, and somebody else has run all their inside corners with a bright blue, like I just did on the last site. And he thought it was my work, so he reached out and kind of gave me a heads up. It obviously wasn't, but I think it's neat that other people are starting to do it. But it's I don't know. I was like, oh, it looks pretty good. It's, you know,
Yeah, you Canadians, that's why you don't go on the Facebook groups because you're too nice.
that's what it is.
Like the Facebook groups are like an American like mean thing. Like you
Yes.
know, it's just all the mean Americans down there like going on the Facebook groups, giving each other shit. You guys will like wander into the groups and it's like, oh, no thanks.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna go back to Instagram.
my my mother's a saint. How dare you talk to her about that? Or about
Hey, you want to do something fun? This guy said to call him ASAP. So he's a super on a job that we just finished, a big job up on Juan Tabo in Fresco Harmony. He said to call him ASAP. He might have a real critical problem on his hands. Do you want to give him like do a live call?
yeah, fuck yeah, why not? Yeah, I'm
Okay.
trying
But
to
I'll give
think.
him a call. I'll have to tell him. I think. Oh, if he's on speaker, then
Yeah, I'll
he
hear.
he he won't be able to hear you.
Right. Yeah,
So
but I'll
just
hear
be
him.
you'll hear
Yeah.
he will be recorded into the mic, but he won't be able to hear you. But I'll tell him he's live.
Yeah, that's cool, man. This will be
And
the
if he did,
first
yeah,
live.
I did it once before. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, you did this with Aaron and Elliot too on their first one, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Hello, Nick.
Dave, what's going on?
Same old shit. Hey,
Hey,
got
just a second, real quick. You're on a podcast with I'm with this dude in Canada. We're talking about drywall and stuff. I just wanted to let you know if you don't want to be recorded, then we'll delete it out. But I just wanted to let you know real quick.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, no, I don't. Call me when you're not doing podcasts.
Okay, cool.
No problem, buddy. Is it dire?
No, it's we got let's see, probably 10 by 8. We got about 80 square foot. We're gonna have to redo out in that front vestibule.
Okay, what happened?
They cut that window.
Oh, okay.
And all of their plastic gave away.
Okay.
Ooh.
And so we got some stuff we're gonna we can't clean it up, in other words. So we're gonna have to kind of go over it again. Clean it the best we can.
Don't sweat it. We'll hook you guys up.
Okay.
All right, sir. I'll call you back.
You got it. Sure.
See, and that's good business right there. Somebody says as soon as possible, you're like, okay, I got to take this. I'm the same way.
It's just how I am. You know, I mean, you're either like that or you're not. I just have this like weird, like nagging if like, you know, it's like somebody's unhappy or there's something going on. And just the peace of mind that I'm giving him that like, don't worry about it, dude. You know, because especially with the Fresco Harmony walls, they're like, we screwed up a wall, and it's like, dude, it's not that big a deal. You know, this shit's easy to fix. We'll reskim the wall. It's like, I'll fucking send Jack over there. We charge. I will charge for that. Like, I don't give shit away. You know, that's a fine line. But like, you know, a lot of these drywall companies will be like, you know, they'll like nickel and dime you with that, like those patches and stuff. I don't know how you handle that, but
not very well.
I'm like, if it's a big job, I'll come back and do once through once. Don't be fucking calling my ass over and over to come back out to the goddamn job. Because after that, it's $100 an hour plus materials.
That's literally what I charge. Yeah.
Take care of the fucking walls. Yeah. You know, if your guys are leaning ladders and shit against the wall, then, you know, be aware. Like, I'm going to charge you to fix that shit. So when you charge them too, these GCs, I think, are a little bit more cautious about beating the fuck out of the walls, because you got these companies that'll just keep coming back over and over, sending guys out, and it's like, I don't do that. Well, and they'll start to expect it, and I'm like, don't expect that from me.
No, you got to nip that right in the butt. It's like, you know, I always same thing. So I do typically 30% 3 times, and then that last 10 is after the house has been painted. Everybody's super happy. So I'll do one call back after prime, where, you know, be as picky as you want. I'll spend a whole day here. And then typically after that, it's like, this is complete now. If you need me to come back for something, it's at an extra charge. That house that I just wrapped up for Judd, that barrel ceiling, everything was primed. The house looked fucking great. But we looked at that barrel ceiling, and you could kind of see where they had bent the board in a couple of places. So we were like, no, let's skim the whole thing, right? And that typically, if that would be an extra. But Judd and I are pretty good buddies, so
barrel ceiling, that would have looked sweet in Fresco Harmony.
I know, right? Like a blue or something. Yeah.
Just a white, just like a regular white. You know, those barrel ceilings are sweet.
Yeah.
Plus, when you're floating out that much mud, it buries all those little imperfections. Gone. Would have been gone.
So I wanted to ask you, like, when you're putting on that first coat, it's got to be pretty heavy, I would think, right? Like the
super heavy, like cake frosting.
Yeah, cool.
It's fucking heavy.
So then, do you end up having snake or fish eyes and things like that in that first?
Sometimes.
But then you're going to skim it again anyways, right? So what does it matter?
Here's the thing about the base coat. Like, it rubs so hard against the grain of the intrinsic drywall mindset that it's hard. It's hard for drywallers. The biggest problem that drywallers have with the base coat is they float it out too flat.
Yeah.
And the texture is what gives it like it gives it character. It gives that wall character. You know, when you're doing like you know, it gives it like you know, you're flashing, you're purposeful flashing. That's what it creates. Just a second, I'll get a sample board.
Nice. Yeah, this is super exciting. It's the more and more that I see of these sample boards that are coming out. Everybody has their own kind of artistry to it.
Right. I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Is it picking that up at all?
No.
Not really, huh?
I'm moving around like that's gonna help it. No, I'm
That's a little, you can kind of see
you
it
can
there.
see it there. Yeah, it's almost like some veining.
Veining. It's pretty heavy. It's pretty heavy. Full wall cover. It's pretty heavy. And then and you would have to show a video of that part because it's obviously not going to translate. But it's a
for people listening.
Fuck. I mean, we're talking to drywallers though. So for drywallers, it's like purposeful lap lines all over your wall. Literally. It'd be like going down your seam or your butt joint and leaving a bunch of little lap lines all over. Mm-hmm. Then when you pull that tight, then you don't sand your lap lines off.
Right.
Then when you pull it tight, all your lap lines flash through, and that's what creates your color movement.
Yeah. So on that second coat, you're skimming
like that.
Yes, exactly. So when you skim over that the second time, you're kind of leaving the high peaks, right? And then
I'm definitely leaving the high peaks, and so sometimes you'll get a little bit of fisheye. If you get like fisheye or skips, that means there's too much mud on your trowel or knife, and you're leaving it too heavy. Clean off your blade. You want a nice thin layer, so you're just getting those nice lines. Right. If I'm getting pock marks, then it's too heavy. That lets me know it's too heavy. Now that gets challenging when I'm covering up like a heavy texture, like what I posted on Instagram this morning. We're covering that heavy texture. When you're covering a heavy painted texture like that, you guys don't have that as much in your area.
Not really. Yeah.
We'll get requests to cover heavy broquet texture in a house because people can't stand it, rightly so. So, I saw a video this morning where a guy was sanded it all down, grinded it all down. You got 9 minutes left. We only got 9 minutes. You haven't paid your bill.
No, I like it that way. That's how it stays in the part 1 and part 2.
That's how you take that. Well, what's cool about that is that's like your timer.
It is. That first time that it happened, I damn near had a fucking heart attack because I had just left CSR. I sat down with Josh, and he and I are like, we're gonna do 3 hours, brother. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
And then like 30
for the drinks.
32 minutes into it, it pops up and says you're done, and I was
done. You're done.
And I tried not to make it look like I was freaking out on the podcast, but it's worked out pretty good because that's exactly it. It's a good timer. It's like 35 minutes, almost 40 minutes on some of them.
I think that's cool, Sean. You're gonna have your own. You have to do a few to figure out your own flow and your own thing. The Brawley's Dad podcast is going to be different than the Drywall podcast or Manny's podcast. He's doing a different thing. And that's what makes podcasts cool is the host and how they do it and how it's structured. But so anyways, this is a something you can do instead of grinding all that texture off, redoing it. And this happens, you guys have popcorn up there. It's the same thing. You scrape off the popcorn. Yeah. Once you scrape off the popcorn, you still have a shitty ass finished part brown. A lot of that stuff, once you scrape it, you still have to prime it because the brown of the drywall and the white of the mud leave this weird leaching effect.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you the amount of sites my first year that I got called out to where they were like, we had somebody come in to remove this popcorn and we told them to stop. The popcorn isn't, you don't just like these guys that you're seeing on the internet spray it down and then scrape it and it's all perfect. It's because they do that every day. If you have a customer doing it or if you have somebody that's not done it before, they're gouging the fucking drywall all over the place. It is a terrain on that ceiling. It has to be skimmed.
So the Fresco Harmony eliminates all of that bullshit. You
wouldn't even have to scrape it, right? You would just apply it.
Sometimes if we're in like a situation where the client's living there, the house is prior to 70, I think it's like 79 or something, asbestos. So if it has asbestos, they don't want to do asbestos abatement because that's your only alternative.
Yeah, you're like
then
thousands of dollars. Yeah.
We'll encapsulate because Jack can float, honestly, and I'll take the Pepsi challenge. I mean, I hear about people hanging over popcorn, and I'm like, fuck that. I don't know how to hang worth a shit. And plus you're hanging like a ceiling.
Yeah.
That's a bitch. So I can float a ceiling in the time it takes somebody to mask everything, scrape it, clean up all that mess, and you still have mess left over. I can float a ceiling and then it can be ready for the base coat of Fresco Harmony. So in that situation, I call that a preliminary coat. Like we do like a white, you don't need any color, preliminary coat. You can use all purpose, no big deal. And what the popcorn does when you float over it with mud, we'll do a big section and I'll just kind of let it sit. Burns a shitload of mud. You could go through 3 boxes on one ceiling. Okay. So I'll do it like a big section and it saturates that. Even if it's painted, it'll saturate that paint and popcorn. And then you go, do this big section. Then you go over here and do this giant section. I'll run out like 6 or 7 hawk loads of mud. And then I'll come back to that original section and that shit will start laying down. It'll saturate. Nice. It saturates right through the paint and it'll it starts laying down.
It's becoming malleable again.
It reactivates it. Nice. Yeah. Okay. And so, if you take your time and cruise through a ceiling going over it it doesn't leave it super bumpy. That's the point. You can just kind of float out a popcorn ceiling. One issue that we've had with that is, and I mean, we've done lots, maybe 30 popcorn ceilings, maybe 40, but like one time, like there was a section that delammed, and I talked to somebody else that had a section delam, especially in a more humid climate, that popcorn, once you get a bunch of mud on there, it'll want to sort of delam from the drywall. We've had that happen once. I went through with Quickset, patched the section. This was like 10 years ago. And again, like all this research is 15, 18 years old. Like I did a job where I went over tile with joint compound. Nice. I primed it. They had tile around the fireplace and I went over it with mud. Never had an issue.
Nice. Yeah. I got a buddy, Neil. He's going to redo his basement. And he's got that like shitty wood paneling up the wall.
Yeah.
And I thought that I heard you say that you go over stuff like that, or at least you can.
I've gone over wood paneling several. The first Fresco Harmony job, 19 years ago, so long ago, was over wood paneling. Yeah. It was a buddy of mine, and he was like, "I'm gonna get rid of this wood paneling. Can we just hang sheetrock over the top of it?" And I had this idea to do colored mud, and then so this was a texture we were doing in Colorado.
Yeah,
this Adobe. We called it the Adobe texture. Drywall Shorty calls it the swirl. I think they call it the swirl texture. She was using a pool trowel and doing her swirl. So we did that a lot in Colorado, like every house. I got really fast at it. And so my idea, because I was doing art with joint compound and color, I was like, oh, you could just color the mud and then do this full wall texture.
Totally.
That opened up the rabbit, the what do they call it? That opened up the Pandora's box, the rabbit hole of going down like the colored mud system, but initially I was like, oh, you could texture and paint at the same time. Yeah. So when my friend Chuck was like, hey, what can I do with this wood paneling? I was like, well, let's try going over it. And I didn't tape any of the seams or anything. And so he got hairline cracks wherever that wood paneling comes together. But essentially, and I have a video on my YouTube page, you can finish it just like drywall. So a lot of times you tape the seams, you tape on corner bead around your window return or whatever. You have a corner bead. Sometimes with wood paneling, they'll use that wood trim shit on the outside corners. And then they'll also use it like in the upper angle instead of corner taping, in their angles, they'll use trim. We'll pull off all that ugly ass trim that looks like it makes it look like it's from the 70s. And essentially
Yes.
you use the wood paneling. Essentially you use it just like it's your drywall.
Right.
And go through, test it, push on it, because it's more rigid than drywall. So you want to make sure that shit is screwed off tight. You want to make sure it's hard.
And if it's not, you
And
just
then
add some screws, right? It's a simple
you go in
fix.
and where it's loose, you fire in screws. So you go
Nice.
in and kind of prep it. And then you go, and I like to use fiberfuse on wood paneling. It works really well. You can even, if you wanted to get super anal, you could run like the big fiberfuse sheets over the whole wall. If you want to do it that way, that's fine. I think that's overkill.
I think so.
I do recommend priming because a lot of times that old 70s wood paneling will have like weird stains on it.
Yeah.
So you want something for that mud to grab to. We're talking about adhesion.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it. Then you once your seams are taped and one coated with quickset, then you go into your base coat of Fresco Harmony.
Brilliant.
I mean, you can hang over it too. You could, worst case scenario, you take off the wood paneling and there's sheetrock underneath it. That happens. But sometimes there's no sheetrock underneath it. So if you take off
and plaster or nothing, it could just be wood with the paneling on it. Yeah.
And just a huge can of worms to take off that wood paneling and rehang sheetrock. Now you're moving your outlet boxes out. All your trim's got to come off. You got to retrim the windows and the base, the baseboard, all that shit. I'm just going in, masking shit off and like running a thin layer of drywall over it. And then I see that we're at less than a minute.
This is a good time to have a break here. We'll be right back.
This episode brought to you by Techdry. Techdry tools for those hard to reach areas.
They got sweet